Big storm weather changes this week. Tornado risk upgraded for the East Coast. Welcome to the weather forecast on VTB TNA channel. Dear friends, we have some strong storms coming up in North Carolina today, heading towards Virginia. I think things will get a little more intense later this evening and into tomorrow. We'll also be taking a close look at the winter months ahead, in terms of temperature and rainfall forecasts. While Gabrielle is trying to form in the Atlantic, it's not a danger to anyone yet. Including Bermuda, the depression could become a tropical storm in the next day or two. It's bringing us some heavier rains. For example, towards St. Martin, St. Bart's, towards Anguilla. And then an area of heavy rain anywhere from Bays spreading north through Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, up into Florida, South Florida and the northern Bahamas. If you like this video, please share it with your friends, family and on social media. Comment in the comment section below the video. I really appreciate it. So far today, the forecast has been calling for marginal forecasts for the North Carolina coast, a small portion of Virginia, a very high chance of tornadoes. Now, you also have the risk of hail. That's for far northern Minnesota, and you also have the risk of strong winds with some storms that will develop later tonight. So far, these are your cities and states that are at risk for wind damage this afternoon. Why you've seen some storms develop here in the Dakotas, as well as a small portion of eastern Wyoming and Nebraska. Now, as we go into tomorrow, you're going to see the same thing. You're going to see those storms rotate and push into Delmarva, where you could have some more strong thunderstorms. Maybe even another tornado threat, while another group of storms is developing in the central United States, bringing more of a chance for strong winds and hail. So the winds aloft as we have these storms along the mid-Atlantic today and as we move into tomorrow morning indicate that we have a little bit of low pressure building up and that's bringing more strong winds towards Delmarva, Delaware, Maryland and a little bit into southern New Jersey. So I think that tornado threat will increase tomorrow as well. Winds will be in the 40 and 50 miles per hour range. Even gusts up to 60 miles per hour in Wyoming going through South Dakota, but there's also a lot of strong winds here, towards the coast of North Carolina, Virginia, particularly Delmarva and towards Delaware. So far, there's no major threat to that system, which suggests that we'll see a swath of rain in excess of 2 inches across the central United States all week. Coupled with what's happening in the mid-Atlantic region in just the next 72 hours, which suggests that from Texas the Panhandle to Oklahoma and north, you'll see a swath of rain in the 10 to 2 inches range this week. But for the mid-Atlantic, with the storms that are forming, not just tornadoes but over the next 48 hours, or just a little bit after the next 48 hours, you'll have a significant amount of rain, particularly from North Carolina to Virginia and Delmarva. 2 to 3 rain events. Maybe even isolated 4-inch rain events. The highs today will be in the 80s, even in the low 90s. And in the southwest, the highs today will be in the 100s. Tonight, as this cold front comes down, it's going to be in the 50s across the west, the Rocky Mountains, it's going to be in the 40s. But with this trough still in place, it's going to be in the 60s and maybe even into the 50s all the way up to northern Florida all the way up to the northeast. And with the wind chill, it's going to be in the 30s in the Rocky Mountains. So keep that in mind. Tomorrow, it's going to be back in the 80s, back in the 90s again. Not across the board, folks. But with the storms across the mid-Atlantic, it's going to be in the 60s. While it's going to be in the 90s across the west coast and still in the 100s in the southwest. We'll also be taking a close look at the winter months ahead, in terms of temperature and precipitation forecasts. We're expecting to end on a warmer note for the central and eastern states. A little cooler in the west. As we get into October, things get more interesting. You've got a lot of warm water south of Alaska, west of the west coast of Canada and the US. And that tends to just move onshore. We know that winds tend to move from west to east most of the time. And we have a trough of low pressure to the east. We're seeing some cooler air in parts of Alaska and western Canada, which is generally associated with milder weather in the US overall. During these fall and winter months, we could see some cooler conditions in the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, some that are a little above normal compared to the rest of the East. Oh, cold and snow. That warm water column is really affecting all the air in the land masses around here. As you can see, Alaska, western Mexico, the western United States, western Canada. All of those areas are warm. And this is forcing all of that Arctic air that's in those areas to be forced down into the central and eastern areas. And this is especially looking good because we've also got warmer air in northern Canada and into Greenland. We call it Greenland blocking. And that's really going to bode well for this severe cold air that's coming into the central and eastern areas, and it could create a pretty good potential for a storm to move up the east coast, bringing snow in some areas. We could see an overall pattern with a ridge of high pressure that's present for the most part along the western parts of North America and some cold air that could come into the central and eastern states in general. The coolest areas are around the Great Lakes, the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast. We see slightly wetter conditions across the Northwest, the Midwest, Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Great Lakes are also a hot spot. The Southwest, South Central, and Southeast are much drier overall. November is wetter in the West and Central, while the Northeast is much drier. All the way down to Florida. December is when things get more interesting. Our latest tropical update, you can see here with the disturbance, it's at 80% for the next 7 days, 40% for the next 48 hours, just for the possibility of tropical depression formation. Still shows that we're likely to track west-northwest and start to turn then right around that ridge. Again, we need to watch Bermuda. But this is also where our storms start to form around the Central American vortex as we get into mid to late September. Still shows that as we get into about 4 days from now, you're going to start to see the storm intensify, possibly a tropical storm or a Gabrielle heading out into the Atlantic. So we need to watch Bermuda, and I'm pointing that out just for Bermuda. We're in the Caribbean. You can see a band of rain and storms coming in. A very dry area in the middle of the atmosphere. It's going into that dry air. And then you see a little vortex here that's absorbing some of the rain from Puerto Rico back into the United States, the UK, the Virgin Islands right near Antigua and Barbuda. So there's some winds blowing in the opposite direction that's reducing the top of the thunderstorms, reducing some of the top of the showers and storms in this area to prevent it from developing. But if it can get through this area, coalesce, it could eventually quickly intensify into a hurricane and get very close to Bermuda as we go down. And this is the new tropical wave that's moving out. We're actually tracking a couple of spots behind it. So this is the latest track of the tropical depression. It could become a tropical storm. If it coalesces, it could become a hurricane and then hopefully move east of Bermuda. We're going to have dangerous rivers, flooding, mudslides, looking at Puerto Rico, as I mentioned, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, same thing going back to Cuba near the Cayman Islands. Look at the rain. Biz, Guatemala, pick your spot, El Salvador, western Honduras, parts of Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia. Very active. Please be careful with some of the rain that's going to be heavy. So we need to be on the lookout for flooding. That's a big concern. This here, what's left of Mario has disintegrated. But that's going to work as more rain comes back to Southern California. And looking at western Mexico for some areas of heavy rain and some additional flooding that could happen. Let's go back to that tropical depression that's out there in the Atlantic. This one's going to be moving west-northwest and slightly northwest. We're in the Caribbean and you can see that most of the models have this storm getting closer to Bermuda, moving northwest and a little bit farther northwest. Watch for additional tropical waves behind it. This will strengthen into a tropical storm or hurricane as we move into the weekend. And then we'll watch next week, again on Monday. These strong tropical waves have a little more of a chance of moving toward the Caribbean. Not sure if they've developed yet, but they're more likely to move toward the Caribbean. I'll show you some really big rainfall totals. South Florida back through parts of the Bahamas. Scattered areas of rain, Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic. But if you get any of those, it's going to be a torrential downpour at this time of year. It can cause landslides, rivers are dangerous. Then as we head into Friday, you still have the Bahamas, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Cuba, parts of Puerto Rico, some areas of heavy rain. That's where we're tracking in the Atlantic, tracking Central America. We could get hit with some showers as we head into Friday as we head back into the ABC Islands. Now let's see what's going on up north. I'm also tracking the remnants of Hurricane Mario. Heavy storms here. Looking at the potential for flooding here. This is the remnants of Hurricane Mario and some moisture coming in. Some parts of Baja. So, look at Mexico moving closer south. California, back into Arizona, some additional rain. That could lead to flooding. So as we head into tomorrow, these could be major storms moving back across the plains of the United States. Not quite Canada, but a little bit in the United States. Looking at the potential for flooding here. And this is an increase in moisture as we move back into the Bahamas. And there's a tropical depression out there. And then as we head into Friday, you can see areas of rain, but the moisture is increasing here. And there's even a few showers trying to come through the Avalon Peninsula. And we have a few showers from anywhere in Manitoba that will push into Manitoba. And you see the increase in moisture here. The 3-day total is huge. Back in the Florida Keys, some areas of South Florida could see 4 to 6 inches of rain. That's in addition to the rain that's been happening in some places over the last few days. So flooding is possible in some places. Then we're going back into the northern Bahamas. Especially the same area, where we could see totals of up to 150 millimeters or even higher because we're going to have some showers. Likewise, western and central Cuba. Heavy rainfall totals of 100 to 150 millimeters are possible. We're going from the Cayman Islands back into Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, eastern Cuba. If we get some storms like Jamaica yesterday, they're not only strong, they could bring heavy rainfall of over 75 millimeters. We need to be on the lookout for dangerous rivers, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, British Virgin Islands. Warning you in advance. And these are heavy rains anywhere from Colombia moving towards Belize. We still believe we're going to have some spots of 3 to 4 inches of rain over the next couple of days. But look at Guatemala, western Honduras, El Salvador, parts of Nicaragua. We're going to have some spots of about 150 millimeters of rain. Then we're going to get to the Yucatan Peninsula, scattered areas of rain. The storm is moving west of Mexico. And these are the remnants of Hurricane Mario. And you're going to have some spots of about 2.5 to 5 centimeters in Southern California that could cause flooding. Not a lot. Texas is looking at the Panhandle getting more active with thunderstorms here. And as we come back over the Corollas, that system is finally starting to break up. So the rain chances are still there and they're going to be higher for us in Jamaica, 60 to 70% chance. Not all day, but we had some rain in some places yesterday. Thank you for following me. Thank you for liking these videos and sharing them with your friends and family. Have a great day. Please subscribe to the channel to follow. Thank you for watching the news on VTB 10/8 channel.